Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jen at KetosisMom. This is going to be going over my week 35 on the drug Zepbound. Today, of course, I will go over my updates from week 34. I am still on the 7.5 milligram via the Weight Watchers Clinic, or the Sequence Clinic, as it was formerly known. Today, I am sponsored by Michelle McDowell Designs again, so they are dressing me again. Thank you for that. And they are offering anyone 20% off of any of their clothing on their website. I will put a QR code right over here, and you guys can use the code JEN on anything that's there. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start today because this was really well liked, I guess, or commented on from last week. I'm going to go ahead and start today with my immediate updates for my weight loss. So on my week 34 that you all saw last week, I have lost an additional 1.4 pounds from last week when I reported that out to you. So I typically will weigh Wednesday to Wednesday, just so that everyone knows, and it's Wednesday morning. So from that, I am absolutely thrilled with that. So I think that's a really great number, especially for where I'm at in this cycle. Obviously in the beginning, I was shelling out numbers like 4, 5, 6, larger numbers, and then that kind of has trailed down. I am basically at this point in time happy with any kind of loss and keep going. My muscle continues to go up, which is also really, really great. I don't know, and I'm not going to say that it's because of the MitoPure that I've been taking. However, I have been on it, and I have really been noticing a little bit of a difference when I'm going back to working out from when we're on vacation or when I get back out and walking. Typically before, when I would go exercise, have some time off, and then go back, I would hurt again afterwards. I might have to take a day or two off, and I'm not seeing that while I'm on these. Now, I am not saying that they for sure work and it is for sure because of these. However, I am going to continue to take them. Yes, they're pricey. I already know that you guys are going to comment that down below. But I have seen so many different people kind of taking this alongside these medicines, especially while there is not currently any type of active ingredient that is going to fight the muscle loss in your total weight loss. So for the time being, I'm going to remain on these. I might try to rotate off of them in the future, and then we'll see. Last time I spoke to you all, I also told you that my GI specialist, she's out on maternity leave right now, and the nurse practitioner changed my medication to the, I'm not sure if it's Ibestrella, Isbrella, whatever it happens to be. I had a horrible reaction to that. Go figure, right, everybody? I know I'm going to have comments down below about how everything affects you. You have side effects to everything. You're always sick. I have an autoimmune disease. I am also one of those rare individuals that if there is some type of severe side effect or symptom or something going on, it typically happens to me. I got that from my mother, so it's probably something to do with genetics, and hopefully one day they'll figure out why that is. However, when I went to the UK homecoming game, I was on my day 3 of taking this new constipation medicine with my GI specialty office. And I had what is known as a severe allergic reaction to this medicine. It was the only thing new that I had been taking. And when I asked the nurse practitioner before I started it, are there any type of known side effects that I need to watch out for? Of course, she said, really the only thing with these that everyone always says is you have diarrhea for a little while your body gets used to it. So I didn't think anything of it. Later, as my hands started swelling and my rings were cutting off circulation on my hands, my throat was swelling, my tongue was swelling, my eyelids were swelling, my feet were swelling. I Googled the name of the drug, swollen hands, and this is what came up. So I have stopped taking that medication, and I have gone back to my Linzess. I contacted the GA office, told them what had happened. Their response was this, which I'm kind of like, okay, are you guys getting a kickback for putting people on this or what? Because most doctors and most nurse practitioners, when they give you something new and then you have a reaction like this, is going to say, okay, we're going to put that in your chart that you can't have this, not try to make it sound like it was something else that did it. So I have just decided to stay on Linzess until my GI doctor returns from maternity leave, which is sometime in January, and I'll continue taking magnesium or doing baths or anything like that, walking more, drinking more water until that happens if I do start having trouble anymore. Not the greatest last weekend for me though. It took me a few days. I had to take some Benadryl because of the allergic reaction. I basically told my husband, if this doesn't go away or at least start going down by tomorrow, I'm going to have to go to the emergency room. And that's the life of Jen. I will also show you all my week 35 injection this week. I did go away from those like love handle areas. I've kind of been rotating back and forth between the two of them over the past few weeks because while I was on vacation, I really noticed that everywhere that I've been injecting in my legs when I'm out in the sun, you can really start seeing it again, almost like a bruise on my legs, which is not really ideal of what I'm wanting, long term, like to have spots all over my legs. So I've really been trying to focus more around my abdominal area. You guys know I'm not like a huge fan of it in my arms, and I have had the worst results from it being in my arms. So this week was an injection over in, I believe it's my right side of my stomach this week, and we will probably just rotate to the left side of my stomach next week. Now next week I am due for another Cosentyx injection for my ankylosing spondylitis with axial spondyloarthritis. It's a mouthful, right? So I will have kind of both drugs at the same time, and my husband and I are trying to get away a little bit. So there's just so much going on. I've been super stressed out and really trying to make sure that I'm staying on top of taking my Viome, because what I also realized was while I was on vacation having my constipation kind of issues, I had not packed my Viome to bring with me. And if you all remember, I was doing a lot better once I started taking the supplements and the fiber that Viome was providing that was specific to my gut microbiome test that I did with Viome. I will put the QR code up over here with all of the codes, as well as down in the caption if anybody is still interested. Those links and codes are valid with Viome for you all to get any of their testing, not just the gut health. I highly, highly, highly recommend it just because in between coming off the Isbrella before I went back on the Linzess, I started back my Viome and I felt like, okay, this feels like I'm getting back to normal now. I'm not really sure why I forgot to pack it. I have no idea, probably because I was running around trying to pack myself plus multiple other little ones at the same time. But I have realized that it is going to be an important and integral part in my entire journey moving forward. Now, I do want to talk to everybody about something that I've talked about in the past, and that is different types of procedures and when you need to come off of these drugs for those procedures. And that's going to transition us over into In the News This Week. If you have been watching me for a while and you've been watching this whole series, then you know that I've gone over before about how different surgeons are basically coming forward and saying that these type of drugs, tirzepatide, semaglutide, Saxenda, all of the liraglutides, the weight loss drugs, can be very detrimental and dangerous for people who are getting ready to undergo surgery. The reason for that is if you really think about this, it's slowing down your digestive system, it's stopping everything in your stomach for the most part, and that can create a reflex type issue. And so if you're not supposed to eat traditionally for 24 hours before you undergo surgery, you could aspirate and you could actually die from this. So they are now saying, back then I believe they said to come off of the drugs for about 2 weeks. It may potentially be longer. I've always told my husband that if I have to go in for another colonoscopy or if I have to go in for any type of surgery, I'm likely going to come off of the medicine for about a month, is what I discussed with my doctor. Now that is a discussion you need to have with your own physician. Specifically in the news this week is about going in for colonoscopies and how some of the side effects of of these drugs can mean an inadequate bowel prep before you go in for that endoscopy or colonoscopy type procedure, which I 100% understand that and get that. So make sure that before you go into those type of procedures that you make them aware that you are on these drugs, because it might mean that you have to schedule out a little further, and it might mean that you also need to come off of these drugs for a few weeks to up to a month or more, depending on what your specific physician wants you to do. So make sure that you have that kind of in the back of your head for any type of procedures that you may have in the future. There is a $200 million expansion with Eli Lilly that is happening over in China. So Eli Lilly is continuing to expand in every single project that they're doing. They're also continuing to take over multiple other businesses as far as genomics, RNA, AI. They have recently just announced a new head of AI within their industry. So they are really kind of at the forefront and the forerunner in development, as far as I'm concerned, in every single thing that I'm seeing about their business. The UK has decided to not renew Novo Nordisk's patent on the drug Saxenda. Now, that's a little bit different than what the majority of people who are watching me with Zepbound are on. However, what this is kind of showing you all for the future is that as these patents start to come up within the country that they're in, then that opens the door for copycat drugs or copycats, right? I'm not talking about a copycat as far as a compounded medicine. I'm talking about a copycat that is a actual manufactured generic drug. So it will still be a regulated drug over in the UK. I believe the ones that are kind of gearing up for this are in India, and they look to start supplying the Saxenda copycat or generic drug over to the UK within the next few weeks. And that's how fast a lot of these generic medicines can happen. And I know that there's been a lot of shakeup as far as the FDA pulling Tirzepatide from the shortage list, coming back and saying, okay, we'll go look at it again once they start seeing that they have lawsuits being filed against them. However, realistically, and I'm just going to be real with everybody, I feel like this is one of those things where if you're at work and somebody's like, no, you did this wrong, then you kind of have this knee-jerk reaction like, okay, wait, I'll go look at it. But then after you go look at it and you realize, wait a minute, no, I was right, you kind of come back like full force and even like feeling bigger headed, like I was right. How dare you call me out in that meeting like that? It's like, no, I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to do anything. And I feel like this is going to be likely one of those situations, because if the FDA comes back and says, you know what, we're going to allow you guys to continue doing this, even though we're seeing that it's being filled, even though it's showing that it's in full inventory, even though everyone who has an order in is going and filling their medicine. And I would love to hear in the comments down below, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are just being super quiet because they are going and filling their medicine every week and they aren't having any problems finding it and they aren't having any issues trying to locate it. And so they're like, is the shortage really there or not? Because I'm getting mine every week and that's all I care about. So I would love to hear in the comments down below if you are on the brand name and if you are having trouble locating it anywhere. And when I mean trouble locating it, I don't mean like you submit your prescription and you're having to wait for your insurance to like allow you to fill it. I mean like you submit your prescription and you're picking it up like on time as you should, or if you're paying out of pocket, your doctor's submitting it and you're able to pick it up within the same week. Typically that's what's going to be looked at. And in my last video, I know that you guys got tired of this, but I compared this to cheese at the grocery store, and I feel like that made it a little more clear for a lot of people. Because let's say this Tirzepatide, this Zepbound, this Mounjaro is cheese at the grocery store. And everyone starts yelling and they're arguing that there's no cheese at the grocery store. And so the government official goes in, or the health inspector goes in, or whoever goes in and says, wait a minute, there's cheese all over the shelves. They look at the store's sales. They see that there's cheese on people's receipts as they're leaving for multiple weeks. They see the inventory trucks coming in every single week and there's cheese on every single one. And they walk back to the shelf and there's cheese sitting there. And it's like these people are crazy. There's definitely cheese here. Meanwhile, you have people who decided to just not make a recipe that had cheese in it because when they went to the store, the cheese wasn't there. So they shifted and made something different. Okay, the government official has no idea that that happened. Or you have people who bought sour cream instead of cheese for the recipe because, okay, I can go use sour cream and that might work in my recipe, so I'll go use that. Or I'll go buy like the vegan version because that might work. Or whatever it happens to be, a powdered cheese, whatever it is. You buy something different. The inspector also doesn't know that. They don't know how many people are buying something different than the cheese, have shifted their recipe to something that doesn't include cheese. So I'm talking about if you were on Zepbound and you've switched to Wegovy, or you were on Zepbound and you've switched to a compound, or you were on Zepbound and now you're not doing anything. Those are all the people who are basically unaccounted for with the FDA because they have no idea what the volumes of that would even be. And in reality, in a statement from the CEO of the company that is trying to sue the FDA over this, they basically said in their statement that they know that people who are getting the compounded drugs are likely not going to qualify with their physician to continue on the brand name drug. So you're basically admitting in your lawsuit, number one, you're not following your own 503A, 503B guidelines because you are like mass producing in inordinate amounts, which you're not supposed to do. You are shipping out of your state in more than 5%. And you're also like openly admitting in the news, in a quote by yourself, that the people that you're supplying the drug to should not even be on the drug and likely do not qualify to be on the drug, however they are taking your compounded medicine. Okay, so I feel like this is one of those things where there's going to be a very hard decision by someone that is way, way high up that's going to say, okay, either the FDA is going to have to change the requirements for this drug to also be inclusive of other indicated uses, which is my opinion, I think they need to do. I think there needs to be other indicated uses for the drug. I also think that the BMI of 30 needs to probably go down a little bit. I know that but prior we discussed that Eli Lilly is testing that 24.9% BMI, which is like right on that cusp of pre-diabetic person, to try to figure out if they progress over into a pre-diabetic state or a diabetic state once they've been on a lower dose of Zepbound or not. And realistically, I do think that some people who are under a BMI of 30 could benefit from this drug. What I don't agree with are people who are 5'7", 130 pounds, and they're taking a compounded medicine because they want to be 115 pounds. Or someone who has an eating disorder that they decide, oh my gosh, I'm bulimic, but I could go eat all these things, but if I take this drug too, then it would still keep my weight down. That's also kind of a psychiatric type disorder that needs to be more manageable and not where this type of drug is fully accessible to them. I was also on a college campus this weekend, and I heard multiple people talking about who had this drug in their dorm room and readily available for you to just go take someone else's. Oh, you don't have any right now, just go get some from so-and-so's room. It's in their fridge. Just make sure you use your own needle. I literally heard this conversation. As I was walking around at the tailgate, I saw multiple GLP-1 commercials going on throughout the college game day for the SEC that was being played. That to me is a little more concerning because I feel like, yeah, this is getting in the hand of kids. This is getting in the hands of people with eating disorders. This is getting in the hands of people that should likely not be on the drug to begin with. And that is something that the FDA is also going to have to take into consideration. If we continue to allow this to be compounded Who are we opening this up for them to have accessibility to it? Okay, as well as what other doors is this going to open if we allow this? Because if they allow it to continue, that is going to bring out every other drug that is not truly in shortage, that's not on the shortage list, for people to start popping off with that as well from here in the future. So this is, in my opinion, one of those things where they need to shift a mindset, and I feel everyone needs to shift their mindset to, we want a regulated drug or a generic manufactured drug that is also regulated, that's at a good price, that we do have restrictions to it, but we need more indicated uses on it. I do agree with all of those things, which would open up access to the majority of people. I also think, based on what the UK is doing, I think this is phenomenal study that they're doing. The NHS in the UK are giving Mounjaro, Tirzepatide, to their unemployed people who are diabetic, who are living with obesity, because they have a, let me make sure I quote it right, they have a 64% rate of people in the United Kingdom that are living with obesity or are considered overweight. So they're taking this drug and giving it to their people who are unemployed to see if it affects anything with their unemployment rate. I personally think that that's genius. I think that you are not only helping people who are in a state of just kind of like a funk of sitting around and trying to find the energy and trying to get up and do these things, but they're always ill, they're always sick, or they're headed towards cancer. And you're basically taking them and turning them around and trying to put them back into society as productive people that they want to be, right? If the United States could just make a mind shift like that and stop complaining about how much this is going to cost the federal government, if they start covering it for the American people, they would greatly benefit from this. I mean, you're talking about lowering your unemployment rate. You're talking about lowering the rate at which Americans have to be on sleep apnea machines, have to be in memory care centers once they're elderly because they've developed Alzheimer's. It's just insane to me. You're talking about saving money on insulin being covered for patients that are diabetic, because they could potentially even reverse their diabetic state taking this regenerative peptide medicine. So I feel like instead of focusing on how much it's going to cost them and how much it's going to cost them and it's going to cost us this, they need to shift their focus on, what is it going to improve? What is it going to improve for us? What are we going to spend money less on, and how it's going to benefit the American people? That being said, I will go ahead and tell you all, I did receive a message from Emerge, and during this kind of like limbo state, they are now able to fill again from Hallandale Pharmacy with their Tirzepatide. I'm going to put the QR code over here, the link down in the caption. And again, if you just want to use a code instead of the link, it is KetosisMom50. You get $50 off your first 2 shipments. In the meantime, so if the FDA does come back and say, nope, we're keeping the shortage, no, here's your 30-day warning this time of you're no longer going to be able to produce after this date, for instance. I do know that Emerge was also offering a semaglutide and setting up a semaglutide program as well. So you would be covered on a compound either way if you do decide to go that route. While I personally do not take a compound, I will say that if I were to ever have to go that route, I did do a lot of research into the Hallandale Pharmacy's Tirzepatide, because they do not currently add any type of additives to the API ingredient other than water and alcohol. So for me personally, you guys, if you watch me, you know I'm allergic to B vitamins, and you also know that I basically have an allergic reaction to anything that is new. So I am not willing to take a drug that I do not know what is in it. And I do not know what the stability and sterility are of that drug. That is why I only take Zepbound, which is an FDA regulated drug. Weight Watchers stock continues to soar as well. They are offering their semaglutide over on the Weight Watchers clinic now, which is a compounded semaglutide as well, and I believe it is $129 via the Weight Watchers clinic. I cannot say where that is from. I did reach out to them and they were not willing to provide me. And you guys know how I feel about a platform not being willing to provide information on where the drug is coming from. So I cannot really speak to that, but I can speak to the fact that I myself have used the Weight Watchers Sequence Clinic basically from the beginning. If you ever were trying to get it covered by insurance, they have a phenomenal team of financial advocates that can help you figure out how to get your insurance to cover this for you, and they do work with you. They also have a care team, they have nutritionists and dietitians, they have a fitness coach, and you're working with an actual weight loss specialist, clinician, doctor that knows a lot about these drugs. And that is one thing that I will say. I told some of my friends lately that I feel like initially the doctors were kind of sold this as like, oh, you give them this and you want to ramp them all the way up to 15. And that's what was initially happening as far as the dosage with a Mounjaro or a Zepbound. However, I think as time has progressed, many doctors and many individuals have realized that you don't have to hurry up and ramp up all the way to that 15 milligram, and you can still see benefits even at the level of 2.55, 7.5, which are the lower doses. I myself covered in a previous video that even on the 2.5 to 7.5 doses, based on the clinical trial charts, I myself am still charting at a weight loss that is equivalent to the people that were on the 10 and the 15 milligrams during the clinical trial, and I have never gone up to the 10 or 15 milligrams. So I think that there are still a lot of studies that need to happen as far as how often you can take the drug. I know a lot of people on compounds are taking it more than every week. They're taking it every 4 days, for instance, based on what their Shotzi app or whatever they're using says, that it kind of starts leveling off. There are no studies. I just want to remind everyone that there are no studies as to if there are any additional side effects if you do take this type of API ingredient, which is the peptides, more than once a week. On that being said, I'm going to end for today. I can't wait to hear you guys' comments down below. I want to hear your all's thoughts on everything going on. Last week, I know everybody, had a lot to say about the compounds being removed. I feel like personally, I could get on here on a weekly basis and just say, I told you so. And I don't. I try to get on here and do a full explanation of why things are laid out this way, showing the actual government documents, the guidelines, the reasoning behind it to people so that hopefully they can kind of get out of their own emotional thinking and think about it like, okay, this is what's happening type of way. So hopefully that is beneficial to people. If you don't find it beneficial, then that's okay too. You can just watch the first part of the video, which is my own personal vlog update. So I will see you guys next week. Again, you can always follow me on Instagram at KetosisMom or Living Large and Lily. I'm also over on Amazon as an Amazon creator at KetosisMom. You can get there by going to amazon.com/shop/KetosisMom. Anytime you're shopping on Amazon, I would love it if you guys would shop with me. You can start at that site and dig through any of my idea list, photos, video reviews. I also am on Like to Know It at Living Large and Lily, and I work with a lot of different clothing like Michelle McDowell Designs, who is the sponsor for today's video. Again, you can get 20% off of anything over on their website via this QR code or the link in the caption below and using the code JEN, Jen. I'll see you guys next week for my week 36. Bye, everybody.